Welcome back to March Madness Analysis. Today we're going to break down the Big 12 Conference, and I'm going to start at the bottom at number 10. I've got Kansas State. Kansas State was in dead last year, and I have them sealed at number 10 this year. They're going to lose their leading scorer, Xavier Sneed, and they're also losing Cartier Diarra, who is transferring to Virginia Tech. They had very little offensive success last season, and it could be even worse this year. The only way I can see them bumping out of the 10 spot is if four-star ESPN 100 recruit Nigel Pack has a dominant season for the Wildcats. Bruce Weber is entering his 9th year at Kansas State. He has 13 career tournament appearances, a national title appearance in 2005 with Illinois. The question for them is, can his experience bump Kansas State out of the bottom spot in the Big 12 and keep fans optimistic for a bright future? Even if they could manage to win 3 or 4 games, I feel as though they can bring in future recruits and turn the program around a little bit. The number 9 spot, I've got TCU. TCU is returning Bain, Nemhard, and Samuel. However, the rest of the lineup is very poor. They have very little depth. They are very inexperienced. They're going to have a ton of trouble scoring, much like Kansas State. Jamie Dixon, years of coaching experience and success, but this may be the least talented team that he has ever coached. At number 8, I've got Iowa State. Iowa State is losing their star player in Tyrese Halliburton. However, they're bringing Coleman Lands, a transfer from DePaul, and transfer Harris from Memphis. They're going to return their leading scorer, Rasir Bolton. They're going to return Trey Jackson and senior Solomon Young. They're hopeful that George Condit could have a breakout season for the Cyclones. And Steve Prohm is 5 years at Iowa State, 3 tournament appearances. However, there's a very low chance that Iowa State's going to make the tournament this year. That's my bottom 3. Now we're going to get into our mediocre Big 12 teams. At number 7, I've got Oklahoma State. They lost a ton of their lineup from last season. However, the highlight of their offseason was bringing in the number 1 recruit, Cade Cunningham. And they also have a top 15 overall recruiting class, including a 4-star guard and a 3-star forward. And also, they're also bringing in 2-star transfers. I think the ban that Oklahoma State has from the tournament, I think that could potentially play a role in how their season goes. Maybe not as much passion or dedication for this year. Mike Boynton is in his 4th season as the Oklahoma State head coach. He has no tournament history, and obviously this year they are not going to make the tournament. At number 6, I've got Oklahoma. Oklahoma is going to lose their main player in Christian Doolittle. However, they're going to return seniors Austin Reeves and Brady Manick, who both averaged over 14 points per game last season. They're bringing in some top transfers in Gibson and Harkless, who both averaged 10 points per game last season for their universities. They're bringing in Davion Harmon, who is a former top 50 recruit, and he's set to have a big season this year. Head coach Lon Kruger has 34 seasons under his belt, and this will be his 10th year at Oklahoma, and he has been to 6 tournaments in his 9 years as a Sooner, and that includes 1 Final Four appearance. And into our top 5. At number 5, I've got West Virginia. I think this West Virginia team could be a little underrated this year. They're returning their top 3 scorers from last season, and they're going to have a very elite defense. As usual, they're going to be Press Virginia hopefully this year. The question for them is, can their offense turn the Mountaineers into a really good team? Obviously, they finished last year in the top 25. They're hopeful for an even better season this year. Bob Huggins is one of the top coaches in the nation without a national title. He's entering his 14th season as the West Virginia head coach. He has 24 tournament appearances and 2 Final Fours. The only thing missing on that resume is a national title. I have them at number 5. At number 4, I have an underrated Texas team. They're returning every player from a 19-win season last year. And not only that, but they are gaining the number 2 power forward, 5-star Greg Brown. This is going to be a solid Longhorn team. Their roster is filled with multiple veteran, former top 100 recruits. They're going to have the experience. They are going to have the talent. They're going to have the coaching and Shaka Smart, who is also, much like Bob Huggins, one of the best coaches without a national title. He's made the tournament in 5 of his 6 years with VCU, including a 2011 Final Four run. He's entering his 6th season as the head coach of Texas, and this could be the most talented team that he has ever had. I feel as though this Texas team is underrated, and a team that I could potentially see being overrated at the number 3 spot. I've got Texas Tech. Texas Tech's losing David Moretti, TJ Holyfield, Chris Clark. On the opposite end, they're getting Mac McClung from Georgetown, Joel Natombwe from UNLV, and Marcus Santos Silva from VCU. They're bringing in Lamari Burnett, a 5-star guard, and they're returning Kyler Edwards, who could be on the Big 12, the All Big 12 team. I just don't know that they could take all the pieces they have and put them together. Obviously, Chris Beard looks like a great coach. This is going to be his 5th season at Texas Tech. Obviously made the national title game a few years ago. Quite the disappointing season last year, and I think they're going to have just as much of a disappointing season this year. However, with the talent they have, I have to put them at 3. The question for Texas Tech this year is how will they jump back from a disappointing season last year? At number 2, I had a really hard time putting Kansas at number 2. They're going to replace Devon Dotson with senior Marcus Garrett. They're going to replace Azubuike with McCormick, and both of those players are going to be stars. Abaji is going to be a star for them. They're bringing in 5-star Bryce Thompson. He's going to be a scorer for Kansas. Their defense is going to be slightly worse than it was last year. However, I think their offense could potentially be a little better than it was last year. And I think this Jayhawk team will consistently stay in the top 15, if not the top 15, right around the top 15. They obviously have Bill Self, who has 17 years in the Kansas program. He's made the tournament every year he's been there. He won the Big 12 regular season title 15 years, and he has 1 national championship under his belt. So obviously they have the talent and the coaching experience. I really couldn't put him at 1, though, considering all of Baylor's talent. Baylor, obviously losing Freddie Gillespie. However, they're going to have an extremely talented team. And like I said in my Big East breakdown, I had Villanova in my Final Four to begin the year. I'm going to have a hard time keeping Baylor out of my Final Four, too. They're returning all Big 12 players, Makio Tegg and Jared Butler. They're also returning 2 seniors in Tristan Clark and Mark Vital. They're going to have a lot of depth. They're going to have an elite offense, and they're going to have an elite defense. They're going to have experience. They have senior leadership. They have the coaching and Scott Drew, who has 17 seasons as Baylor head coach and also 14 tournament appearances. The question for the Bears is, can they deal with being the team to beat this year? Obviously, last year, later in the season, they were first in the Big 12, and they had a bad loss to Kansas. So will they do the same thing this year, or will they dominate the Big 12 and be a potential national championship contender? Let me know what you think of the list down in the comments, and I'll see you next time.